Hello, everybody. This is your buddy Stars here, coming at you on a Tuesday afternoon. Here with another Vintage Geek Extra play along. Today, we are going to try a little game known as Sonic the Hedgehog, presented by Sonic Team. Sonic Team had been around a while. They didn't know. Never could find the right project until Sonic the Hedgehog came along. That's not true. Sonic the Hedgehog was a video game that was released in 1991. I think both in Japan and in America. At the time, Sega was an arcade powerhouse. They had a ton of huge arcade hits, ports of which were really, really popular for home consoles. I think about the Commodore versions of get distracted here by Sonic the Hedgehog. Alien Syndrome. Alien Syndrome was a really popular game on the various various computers in general, I think, but I specifically remember people talking about really loving the C64 and Amiga versions of Alien Syndrome. And of course, those went on to be they built them into their own kind of thing. Team 17, the future creators of Worms, created Alien Swarm, I think is the name of it. That's how you can tell I'm not from the UK, because I can't 100% for sure remember the name of this game. But I think it was Alien Swarm. In any case, became very popular in the UK. Same thing here in the US. They had a ton of arcade hits. Afterburner, Ninja, the Ninja, I guess is what it's called, or Sega Ninja, depending on what version you're playing. Quartet was a biggin. Oh no! We missed the Emerald here. I'm not great at Sonic the Hedgehog. So yeah, they had all these arcade hits. They had great games coming out. And, obviously going into the mid-'80s, they start seeing the Nintendo Entertainment System, or the Famicom in Japan, being really successful. And they decide to kind of get into that market of home games, and they release the SG-1000. Later upgraded into, I think that was the Sega Mark III, I think is what it's called. And, from there, start turning into a competitor to the Famicom, but not a very good one. A lot of the games on there were spending time catching up to both the popularity and the level of creativity that was coming along on the Nintendo consoles. So you got a lot more arcadey style. Oh, can I do it? Can I do it? Yes. Okay. A lot more arcadey style games that didn't really compete with the scale of stuff like Mario and Zelda. It was a little. The graphics looked great, and it had some cool sound capabilities that you could add on to it via, an FM synthesis addition. But technology aside, Nintendo's internal maxim at that time was the name of the game is the game, which is one of those things that sounds like they think it's more profound than it actually is, but ultimately it is the truth. People will not buy a more technically advanced console unless the games on it are as good as the competitors. And No, 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 no. Can we get it? Can we get it? Oh, we're so gonna get it. Yes! Yeah, the Master System comes out in the US. It's actually more of a non-starter in the US than it was in Japan. At least there was some adoption of the SG-1000 in Japan and the Mark III. In the US, not so much. I had one, weirdly. I don't remember how that happened. My parents or my grandparents must have found one at like a yard sale or something for real cheap. But growing up, when I was like 4 or 5 years old, I had a Master System as well as an NES. Had a few games for it, but I didn't know it because for some reason my parents put them in the crawl space in our basement. It turns out that I owned Sega Ninja, which is still to this day one of my favorite top-down shooters. I had Afterburner. I had... There we go. Yeah. Get that one up. I had Hang On. I think I had a separate Hang On cart, even though I had the one that Hang On was built into. No, I'm not going to get up there. Forget it. So, yeah, Sega's 8-bit stuff never really caught on, particularly internationally, with the exception of Brazil, who adored the Master System. I believe it was the most popular console in Brazil until, like, the late 90s or something. Like they didn't get the PlayStation or something like that because of some kind of importing issue. Don't know all the details on don't know all the details on their video game industry, but in any case, it was popular there. It was somewhat popular in the UK. Moderate popularity in Japan, where it was still very much outclassed by the NES. Or Famicom. And Sega was big enough, they were making enough money from their arcade stuff and the ports and everything like that, that they decided that it would be a good idea to try it again, make another shot at it. This time, they weren't following Nintendo, they were actually out ahead of Nintendo. Because they were making a 16-bit console. And I think that their thought was, let's get the 16-bit console on the market as soon as humanly possible. And that way we can beat Nintendo to the punch and capture a big part of the market without them. And they tried it. Did not really work in Japan. It did okay, but it was never like a huge console. Even after the burst of popularity that came from Sonic. Came to the US, people were not really interested. There were a lot of problems at Sega at that point. I think Bernie Stoller was the president for the first time. He eventually comes back, and he seems to be overwhelmed. He doesn't seem to know exactly what he needs to do to market. Okay. Doesn't seem to know what to do to market the Genesis in the US. Does give it that title under his command, but never really knew what to do with it. Kind of had some issues coming from the fact that the Master System had been marketed in the U.S. by the toy company Tonka. At the time, there was a movement for people or companies to... they were essentially copying the Japanese, is what they were doing. A lot of Japanese companies are... and I'm not an expert on this, so forgive me if I'm using this incorrectly, but I believe the term is Zaibatsu, and it'll be like a company that just owns a ton of stuff, just like a big conglomerate. Konami is a good example of that, because Konami had like instant noodles at one point. They own a bunch of gyms. They own a bunch of casinos. They make patchy slot stuff. They make video games. They own real estate. Like, they're this huge company that does a million different things. And that was a really popular model. The Japanese had a lot of success with it during the bubble economy of the 80s, late 70s and early 80s. And I think a lot of American companies started copying that. So you started seeing stuff like, I think General Mills bought Mattel at one point. Like, all these like weird buyouts. And that was one of the things, at least with Tonka's case, you could make the argument that a video game console is pretty closely related to toys, even if it is more of a, thing than regular toys are. So the Genesis doesn't really make much of an impact in the US. People are still kind of more interested in the NES, although it does outsell the PC Engine, also known as the TurboGrafx 16 in the US. Did do better than that in the US. And, there were people out there. There were people who wanted some of the arcade ports, because the Genesis had fairly arcade perfect, at least closer than really anybody else at that time, versions of some of their arcade games. Altered Beast, of course, is the example there, because that was the game that was packed in with the Genesis initially. The thing about it is that it's still arcade ports. There's not a lot of depth to Altered Beast. That's a game that I like a great deal, but there's no depth to it. It is a 20-minute experience once you know how to beat it. It's just really difficult. And, see me screwing up here. So, Sega kind of realizes, well, if we're gonna compete, if this is going to be a successful console, we need something that actually can compete on a gameplay level with stuff like Mario and Zelda and like all these other games that Nintendo was putting out that were changing. And this is something that I think about a lot, changing the idea of what a video game is and can be to kind of combine the action elements of arcade games with the storytelling elements of PC games in such a way that it kind of creates a new type of video game. You're not competing with the console or with a friend to complete a simulation of an activity, even if that activity is something that doesn't really exist, like turning into a werewolf and punching monsters in ancient Greece, as in Altered Beast. So to create these types of games where like you are complicit in what happens in the video game, like that's kind of where that stuff was added, right? Like you decide in Zelda if you're going to go, to Dungeon 1 first, if you're going to go make enough money to buy the blue ring, whatever. There's like a bunch of different ways that you can look at that. And I think that I have put this better in a situation where I have been able to collect my thoughts. But ultimately, I feel like a lot of arcade games are very much like, can you beat all of these enemies or not? Can you win at this golf game or not? Can you beat your friend at boxing or not? And it's just like all about like ultimately the goal is to get the highest score possible. Whereas, oh man, short rings every time. You have to have 50 rings to be able to jump through the big ring at the end. I don't think we're going to get all the Chaos Emeralds. I've never been very good at that. So anyway, Sonic the Hedgehog is created at Sega in 1990, I think. They come up with different ideas. The name that's most associated with his original design is Mr. Needle Mouse, although technically that's just a literal translation of the Japanese word for hedgehog. So technically it's really more Mr. Hedgehog was his name. But anywho. You know, they put a lot of work into this. They hire a bunch of new people, create this internal team called Sonic Team that's dedicated solely to creating this big blockbuster game with a likable, memorable hero similar to Mario that could be a mascot for the company. Replacing their previous mascot, Alex Kidd, who was one of the pack-in games for the Master System, and it timed that incorrectly. Oh no, man, making some bad mistakes here. So, this game, Sonic, comes out. The game itself looks incredible. People are super impressed with how fast it moves, how colorful it is, the parallax and the backgrounds, like all this stuff. It's this really cool-looking game that actually looks like something that could compete with Mario for kids. And, Sega basically decides this is especially Sega of America decides that this is their all or nothing shot. And they really put everything into marketing this game. And this was after Sega had changed, Sega of America had changed CEOs, almost said CDOs. They had changed CEOs, and they had what's his name? Tom. I'm blanking on it, but he was formerly the head of Mattel, introduced He-Man, brought back Barbie, had all these huge hits with Mattel. Decides to move to Sega after being really, really impressed with their hardware and thinking they had a really great product that just was not being marketed well in the US. Tom Kalinske, that's his name. I just remembered it. Oh boy, this is not looking good here. So yeah, Tom Kalinske comes in and decides that they're going to put Sonic front and center, and they have like all these different ways that you can get a copy of Sonic. It's packed in, and it's that you can get it by mail order, and you can buy it in stores, which is what I did, weirdly. I don't know how or why, but for some reason I had a Genesis, but I did not have Sonic because I'd bought it. I'd gotten a Genesis before Sonic came out. I remember buying it. I remember going to Circuit City and picking out Sonic the Hedgehog when I was... almost got me there. Picking out Sonic the Hedgehog at Circuit City when I was 3, when it was new. It was my birthday game for that year. And honest to God, classic. I fell in love with it very quickly. Played a lot of it. It was one of the first games as a little kid that I could actually make progress in. I could make it to about, what is the next one? Labyrinth Zone, before I would run out of lives and die. But, definitely one of the games that, taught me my reflexes with, platformers, although I would argue, obviously Mario was probably the bigger one, because, I had all of the Mario games except for Mario 2. I think. Yeah. I owned every single Mario game except Mario 2 for some reason. And Mario Land 2. I think those are the only two I didn't have. Anyway, that's not really relevant to what's going on with Sega. So, Sonic comes out, huge hit in Japan. People really love his design. Really enjoyed the game. It was very popular. Sold quite a few Mega Drives in Japan, the Japanese equivalent of the Genesis. Does pretty well. Doesn't really do enough to overtake Nintendo in Japan, but in the US, Sega still kind of had the advantage in '91 because they had not Nintendo had not released the Super NES until that year, until the summer of that year, I think, if I remember correctly. That's another one of those details that I might be wrong about. Oh my God. Sorry for screaming in your ear there. I cannot believe I missed that jump. Anyway. So this game comes out in the US, and it's a big enough hit that it actually starts taking market share away from Nintendo and starts to really, really build up some momentum for Sega. And it led to the first true video game battle for supremacy, because it was the first time that two video game manufacturers had really had a truly, how do I get hit by that fireball every time? Unbelievable. There's no way I'm going to need to continue in Sonic the Hedgehog 1 in 2026, surely. Anyway, so yeah, this is essentially what led to, Atari was always, even when there were other consoles, the Intellivision, the ColecoVision, stuff like that, Atari was still had 90% of the market share or something insane like that. I doubt it was that high, but it was still a huge share of the market. And same thing with Nintendo. There were competitors. I cannot believe that just happened. Dear Lord. Almost through with this Sega history thing that I seem to half remember, so hopefully we'll be able to continue here. Anyway. Yeah, so basically this was the game that made Sega matter, particularly in the US. And you can really, playing it now, you can still kind of see like how this was so successful, like in a world that the only real competitor to this, like serious competitor to this type of game, was like Mario. And of course, the Mario games are incredible. There was nothing that ever really competed with them, even with people trying, that had this exact feel of this game, like a physics-based platformer where you're speeding up and slowing down and jumping super high and all this other stuff. Certainly not the first in 1991, but one of the best and one of the first ones to come out for another console in such a way that I think people were really excited about it. And of course, it set off, a whole trend in the US. It launched an honest to God. Did I go backwards? Was I dying from going backwards? My God, what is wrong with me? I've had this game. I've been playing this game for 35 years. How am I losing so badly? Anyway. It really, truly is hard to talk and play a video game at the same time. Especially if you're actually trying to think about what you're saying, instead of just kind of like chatting. Anyway. Oh, I want that shield. Son. There we go. Yeah, so this is kind of where Sega went from being a really good arcade manufacturer like Taito to being one of the biggest companies in the industry. And you can really see a lot of that here. It's super colorful. Do want to pace, I know that the game is supposed to be like fast. Like that's the whole thing with the game is, you know, you got to go fast. Sonic's the fastest thing on 2 feet and all that kind of stuff. But really, this is not a very, as you can see by this incredibly slow moving block, this is not a very speed focused game. And I don't really think that they became that speed focused outside of the first level or so until like Sonic Adventure. So I've never really understood that. But in any case, it's still a very fun platformer, and I do want to play. Do want to pay special attention to the music, which was composed by Masato Nakamura, who is not any. He's basically just known as the Sonic composer in the U.S. But in Japan, he is like a Paul McCartney level super celebrity. Like he's widely considered one of the greatest musicians in the history of Japan, and had like, oh god, Dreams Come True, his band had like 25 #1 hits in Japan. So I mean, they are like gargantuan huge level big in Japan, and it was a huge deal that he was doing the music for this game. And it makes sense because the music in this game is really, really, really good. Green Hill Zone, the first couple of levels there, the music from that, obviously super famous, gets used in almost everything. Sonic related, at least. Does not get used in, there's not like Green Hill music and Green Hill Zone music in like Bosch or something, but I would enjoy that if they did it. Just kidding, I'm not gonna watch Bosch. Yeah, we're definitely not getting the emeralds this time. There's no way that that's gonna happen. So yeah, this has been, you know, a game that I could pick up and play pretty much any time since I was a little kid. It's always fun. The music is stellar. Just long enough, not too long, not too short. Just a really great pick up and play title. Let's see, music. So some of the songs in here have actually been reused by Nakamura, who actually recorded a couple of them, took the melodies from them and zhuzhed them up a little bit and released them as full-on lyrical songs under the Dreams Come True banner. The Green Hill Zone music was directly adapted into this really pretty soft ballad called Marry Me. It's very, very pretty, and I enjoy listening to it a lot. Probably the most famous example of that is the ending song for Sonic 2. The last soundtrack I think he did for Sega. I think he just got too busy after that. But oh, got that tenor. Yeah, there's no way we're getting the emeralds this time. Yeah. Yeah, the ending song from Sonic 2, the one that's like ba 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 da 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 bum 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 ba na 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 na. Really nice song, and was actually a digitized version of a huge, gigantic hit single that they had right around that time. called Sweet, Sweet, Sweet. I think it was translated into English as Sweet Dreams. They did both an English and a Japanese version of it. Both are very, very good. Their lead singer, whose name does not come to my mind right off the top of the bat, and that is a shame because she is one of the... There's something about her voice that is just so pure and perfect. And I don't mean pure like morally pure. I mean like... You know how like... some of the appeal of like a Bob Dylan song is that Bob Dylan can't really sing, and it adds like a sense of authenticity to his music. And that's nice for his music. But for Dreams Come True, for a band like this, that had all these huge hit singles, had all of these like romantic songs and ballads and all this other stuff, she just has... It's not like anything unique or special. It's just... It kind of reminds me of Karen Carpenter, in that it's just like a perfect version of a normal human voice. And it's just really pleasant to listen to. There just went the chance of getting another emerald. So yeah, highly recommend checking out Dreams Come True. If you need a hook, look up Marry Me or Sweet, Sweet, Sweet. If you're familiar with the Sonic soundtrack, of course. But really, it's all good. I have not heard a single song by them that's just bad. Listen to their albums. I've watched their music videos, everything. They just have a ton of really good songs. A lot of weird casino themes in this. A lot of casino levels in the Sonic games, and I've never really understood exactly why that is. It makes more sense in the later games, like Sonic Adventure, where you actually visit a casino. And because that was after, the creation of like Sonic Spinball, people realize, oh, Sonic turns into a ball and he bounces off of stuff, so why don't we put him in a pinball game? And it's a really good pinball game. You know what? They did a really good job with everything except the soundtrack for that game, because the soundtrack is borderline unlistenable. People in the US really did not seem to understand FM synth for music at all. So it's just like a lot of like kind of sounds that nobody wants to hear. I bet that was really unpleasant if anybody's listening to this on headphones. I apologize. But yeah, this is probably the earliest version of that kind of casino level idea in a very abstract sense. Like, people don't talk about it much anymore because... So let's get into the big thing about Sonic now, which is that people... Okay, so... I'm trying to think of how to say this because I don't want it to be insulting to anyone. Because I love furries. I'm not a furry myself. I have zero interest in like anthro kind of stuff like that. I do not have a fursona. I do not have a fursuit or anything like that. But I do have friends and acquaintances who have been furries in the past. And I've always thought that they were really sweet people. They are people that I do share a lot in common with, being autistic. Sonic specifically got completely taken over by the furry fandom in a really weird way. And that's not to complain that furries are fans of it. I'm, happy for anybody to enjoy anything that they want. And, this is obviously... It's a game with a bunch of anthropomorphic animals in it. So, that makes sense. But somehow, and I think it's probably because of the cartoons, like all the Western-made stuff, the cartoons, the Archie comics, like the Kin Penders kind of stuff. Whoa, I want that invincibility, please. Thank you. those games, the Sonic games themselves never really had a ton of characters in them. It was always like Tails, Sonic, Amy, like they would introduce one or two new characters every game. I think until Sega of Japan caught wind of how successful the cartoons and stuff were in the US compared to the games. Obviously, the games did well, but people were slavishly into the cartoons and the comics, to the point where like it causes like all these really weird problems. Just about any fandom that tends to score a lot of fans who are, maybe on the spectrum or neurodivergent in some way or whatever. And I say that again as somebody who is autistic and has severe ADHD, so very on the spectrum. Just did not get the furry strain of it. So in the US, like at first it was mostly like I remember all of my fandom of Sonic being based entirely on the games. I watched the cartoons every once in a while because it was a cartoon based on a video game. I would grab a comic because comics cost like $1 and it was really easy to convince your parents to do that. But I never really got into those stories. And it made it really weird going into like the late 90s and the early 2000s as, furries started to really congregate in larger communities on the internet and stuff like that. So I assume that has something to do with it. But it leads to all these weird inconsistencies, because Sega of Japan could not have possibly cared less about what was going on with anything in the Archie comics, anything in the cartoons. They did not care what Jaleel White had to say about Sonic the Hedgehog, the original voice of Sonic, and a few other things. And it became this thing where like it had this fandom that was mostly in it for those stories. Because it was the tale of Sonic on Mobius, and he had like all these animal friends. He had Sally Acorn and Jeffrey something or other, and I was reading about this last night in case you're wondering why I can remember all these names. And I do want to clarify, there's nothing wrong with furries being into Sonic. It makes a lot of sense, and I am sympathetic to furries. So I don't want to make it sound like that's a bad thing. But it also caught, like, and again, I don't want to kink shame people or make people feel bad about things that they're into. But it brought this weird association with it from like the Chris Chan side of fandom, and Chris Chan had their own problems unrelated to Sonic, to put it mildly. So it's not like Chris Chan is like, symbolic of all furries or anything crazy like that. But there's like this weird, like, this huge, like, fetish community, like fetish art community that's based around Sonic. And it's a lot of, like, again, nothing like morally wrong or anything, just stuff that I don't particularly want to see, especially associated with, like, cartoon characters personally, and especially like video game characters that I like and have enjoyed the video games of. And the reason that I bring that up is, again, not to shame people, but because I feel like by the mid 2000s, and especially the late 2000s, Sonic was so associated with that side of that community. And that is... I'm trying to think of how I want to say what I'm saying. This is you're getting something new here, folks, that you've never gotten from Stars. I'm actually thinking before I speak. It got this association to the point where it feels like people thought that this you know, the whole furry thing was all there was to the games. And it doesn't help that, like, you got all these weird... I remember one time I posted a comment about something. Let me think. Oh, so it was somebody was convinced. There's like this very small contingent of Sonic fans who are convinced that that Tails was originally supposed to be a girl and therefore be Sonic's love interest, and that they changed it. But for some reason, they also seem to think that they have this whole, like, mythos about... Like they wrote out this whole, like, story of how... Of Sonic and Tails' relationship and all this other stuff. And swore up and down that it was canon, first of all. And second of all, that they had actual honest-to-God evidence of it. I don't know if I'm going to have enough continues to continue this. Surely to God. Oh my God, okay. Let's think for a second. Do I want to play through all those levels again? You know what? No, I don't. I think what I want to do... We're going to use the stage select sheet here. We're going to jump back to where we were. Let's see here if I can look that up. Not really taking a look at the cheats so far. On any of these Vintage Geek Extra Playalongs. So, we'll check out some cheats so that we don't have to sit here and look at all these things that I've played through already. Trying to look up the cheat, and it won't give me anything on Game FAQs other than cheats for Android and iOS. There we go. Okay. All right. Now we're talking. Let's see. Where were we in? I think we were on stage 1. So we'll go to that. Now, as I was saying, I think ultimately what I'm trying to get at is not necessarily anything critical of these people for having interests or paraphilias that I don't... I think that's the term, paraphilia. That I don't necessarily identify with. But rather that they kind of changed Sonic into like a different thing. Like, Sonic's thing was originally like, oh, you know, he's totally radical or whatever in the US. Wasn't as big of a part of his character in Japan, but he definitely was, you know, kind of in that area. And there was this huge contingent of fans who wanted the Sonic games to be like the video game for furries. And therefore based around the properties that they liked. And in that case, those were not necessarily the games as much as the cartoons and the comics and stuff like that. And it gave this really weird association, I guess, at least in the West, of it being a game for furries and the games being terrible. So, you know, what else is there to enjoy about them unless you're a furry? And I feel like that has caused a lot of issues with Sonic's legacy in the West, because these games are really good. The mid-2000s games are really bad, but not because they were focusing on furry stuff, but because, like, you know, I think that the message that Sega heard was, oh, well, people want more story in these Sonic games. People want more romance and, you know, cartoon-style storytelling as opposed to video game gameplay-based storytelling. And that's where you start getting, you know, Sonic getting kissed by a human to be turned back into a hedgehog or brought back to life or something. It's where you get BioWare making a Sega game and then basing it all on the Western stuff for some reason, instead of the game that Sega was paying them to make. Of course, I'm a big BioWare critic also. I'm not a big BioWare fan. I think the best games BioWare has ever been associated with were the Baldur's Gate games, and I think that Obsidian and Black Isle had as much to do with that as they did. I don't think Jade Empire was very good. I really don't think Mass Effect is very good. At least not for me. I have tried on multiple occasions to play through Mass Effect, and I cannot make it more than like an hour or two in. I just do not enjoy it. It's like bad Phantasy Star Online, to bring it back to Sega stuff. It's like, what if Phantasy Star Online was a really boring Western generic Star Trek ripoff? And that is essentially what that game feels like to me. Whatever the other one was. Dragon Age? Dragon Age was them, I think. You know, tried to set it up like a spiritual successor to Baldur's Gate, and I do not know where they were getting that idea, because it did not feel or perform in any way like Baldur's Gate. Especially once you start getting to the later games. Anyway, this is all basically to say, I really feel like Sonic is overdue for an image rehab. Like, God. Why did I time that like that? Specifically in regards to the games. Because I think, like, Sonic Mania, which was made by a team led by Christian Whitehead, who was a big Sonic fan, specifically of the games, had made a lot of fan games and had gotten so good at it that he was able to convince Sega to let him start making Sonic games. He started porting them, and his ports were so insanely good that Sega finally just said, okay, just do what you can. And we get Sonic Mania, and I think Sonic Mania is maybe my favorite game in the entire series. So I think it's on the up now, which is great, but I do feel like there's still a big contingent of Sonic fans that are way into the, like, furry storytelling side of it. And I think that as long as they're stuck in between those things, Sega is never going to do anything good with Sonic by themselves. Nothing really great, because they can't, it's like they can't decide what type of games they want to be made. It's like Sonic Mania was super successful, and they, I guess, let the guy make another remake of the original games and then decided not to hire him for anything else. And it seems like ultimately what they're saying is, well, most of our people who are buying Sonic games are people who are invested in the story. So we're going to put less focus on the gameplay and more focus on the story, because ultimately it doesn't matter if the game actually plays well or not. because most of the people that are buying it for the story, and they'll put up with anything, as proven by the people who are hardcore fans of Sonic 2006 even today. You know, so many Sonic games are just like buggy messes, particularly the 3D ones. They haven't really gotten 3D exactly right in any of the games that they've made, and they've been doing that for over 20 years at this point. So it seems like the only thing that they can really do to fix this game series is to... Oh, how do you do this? I always forget the right way to do the jump. There we go, okay. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents about it. I'm not, you know, the primary market for Sonic games right now. So I feel lucky that we got a good 2D Sonic game. But yeah, that's about it. A lot of robots underwater. They don't seem to have any issues with the water. We're dead. We're so dead. It's not gonna come out fast enough. Go! Ha ha! How about that? That terrifying, anxiety-inducing music. We finally made it through it. Okay. One thing I really love about Sega games from this era is that they are all so full of this weird... I don't even know if you would call it mythology. It's like this weird, like, theosophic interpretation of, you know, the stuff like lost continents, the lost continent of Atlantis or Mu or Lemuria or whatever. You know, ancient aliens and like all that kind of weird stuff. Probably the best example of that. Oh my God, is this water not going to come back down? Well, we're dead, I guess. Doesn't seem like there's any way out of this. Well. Cannot believe I got to another one. We may have to let Sonic die anyway, because I don't know that we can get past this, or maybe if we hit this button again, it'll... Yeah, there we go. But, yeah, it has this, like, weird, like, mysterious ancient civilization thing to it. The same way that, like, Columns had that. Like, that weird, Greek-style music, ancient Greek-style music, in it. And, like, all the weird, like, mythological stuff. Same thing with, Altered Beast. Altered Beast had a lot of that kind of stuff in it, too. I think probably the best example of that, specifically in Sonic, is in, oh, we are so screwed. I keep saying that, and then we're not, so who knows. In Marble Zone, the zone that we were in, the second one, basically. Yeah, all right. The second level, Marble Zone, originally had UFOs in the background, and you were, like, running through all these, like, volcanic ruins of these old marble buildings with faces on them, with UFOs flying around in the background, and that's just really cool. I'm not a big believer in like ancient alien theories and theosophical beliefs and stuff like that. But I do think that they're cool storytelling elements. I think that they people like Eric Von Daniken, I think, you know, not only full of crap, but also super racist. Basically, his whole thing was none of these brown people could have built the things that they built. It had to have been space white people. And there's still a ton of that in Ancient Aliens and all that kind of stuff. But it's really cool as like I think about like Stargate, which Stargate is not a good movie or a good series, but there are things about it that are super cool. Storytelling wise, that even if the movie or the show or whatever is not great, it's still a really cool world to look at. So there are still elements to like enjoy about it, you know. That's probably not like, I feel like criticizing Stargate is probably not the wisest thing I could do, because I feel like people that know about Stargate enough to care about my opinion on it are people that are huge fans of Stargate, and everybody else are like, I've never seen Stargate, I don't know what that is. I say that fondly, truly, like it's objectively not great, but I do like a lot of things about those Stargate series, especially SG-1. And the video game on the Super NES, I think, was pretty good for what it was, you know. I believe this song was also, the melody from it was also used for a Dreams Come True song, if I remember correctly. That parallax background with the stars looks so cool. I just love 16-bit space, I think is ultimately what it is. This is the one place that I will say is maybe not the best use of Masato Nakamura's music story-wise. Like, this music is so tranquil and pleasant that it, considering that it's like the next to last level and it's supposed to be showing the ecological nightmare that Robotnik has created, like it's a little too soft for that, I think. Oh, yeah, we got that emerald. Well, we got the special stage. Who knows if I'm gonna lose. Okay, we can still do this. We can still do this. Get all the emeralds. Got 4 stages left in the game. I think we are gonna get it. How about that, huh? What do you think about that, Sonic the Hedgehog? Oh, wait, we didn't get the last one. Oh, yeah, because I used the level select sheet. Yeah, we're definitely not getting all the items. All the emeralds. I think it's actually technically impossible at this point. I don't think there are enough levels left for me to actually get all the items. All the items, all the emeralds. Obama chuckled. You mean the Chaos Emeralds? You mean the Chaos Emeralds? Gotta get them rangs. I don't. Those fans don't work right. The physics of those fans just doesn't work. Like, why would I be stopped by a fan that's blowing in the same direction that I'm running? That doesn't make any sense. Oh, come on. In the split second. Well. I do love the Sega Genesis. I was definitely a Super Nintendo kid, you know, growing up, but I have a very, very soft spot for the Genesis and for its aesthetics and its music and its games and its marketing and all that kind of stuff. Wow, that doesn't work, right? Oh, wait, is that... Okay, that's a platform. All right. I was thinking it was just not showing the top of the ball. Yeah, Sega's such a specific moment. Sega of America is such the Genesis era is such a specific moment in video game history. Like, it's where it's the very beginning of video games being marketed to adults. And you know, it's obviously like still they were mostly targeting like kids, but like older kids. And to do that, they started taking like a much more mature approach to their marketing. So they were advertising it the same way that, like, I think their advertising agency was actually Weedlin and Kennedy, who did like the famous, they were the people who made Nike matter, because before they were just kind of crappy shoes. And Weedlin and Kennedy, I think, were the ones that introduced the athletic angle to it. Something like that. I don't know about Nike's history because I don't care. I think that it's a horrible moment in American history that we built this crappy company dedicated solely to selling $5 rubber shoes for $120 because a basketball player said that he liked them after they paid him to say that they liked it, to say that he liked them. Pure American capitalism at its best. Here's this piece of garbage that we fooled you into thinking is valuable. Aren't we innovative? Dee-dee-doo. Dee-dee-doo. Bum, bum, bum. One of the games, and I think it may be this one, has a different boss theme in Japan. Maybe it's two. I just remember there was one that has like a boss theme that's like way better in the US version because it's like way more ominous sounding in an awesome way. The low going. Bum, 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 bum. I also got to say, Dr. Robotnik is a billion, million times better of a name for a villain than Eggman. Like, ordinarily, I really love the Japanese versions of things in a lot of cases. Dr. Evo Robotnik is as good as you're going to get with a villain name. Particularly a robot-themed villain. Well. God. All right. We will just teleport right on back here to stage 3. I just don't want to waste people's time. Who even knows if I have anything else to say about Green Hill Zone? It's been in so many games at this point. It's been done to death. See, like, what? That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Why is that fan drawing me backwards? That doesn't make any sense. Also gotta say, these levels, especially if you compare them to, like, even Mario World at this time, it's insane how big these levels are. I saw a million years ago on 4chan, maybe, somebody did an analysis, like a game design analysis of how the games and the stages in this were built. And they pointed out that most stages in the 2D games tend to... They have like 3 different routes that you can choose from, and there will be one that's like super fast, there will be one that's slower but has more items, and there will be one that's fairly slow but also way easier than the other ones. Why did I jump? Bum, 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 bum. Okay. All right. Excuse me. I'm going to have to do this the right way. And I think that's going to be... Excuse me. Just chilling out here and waiting for him to drop. The mom's in the middle. Ding, 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 ding. Bum, 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 bum. Pretty snoozy here on a warm, soon to be rainy, Tuesday afternoon here. It's just a real nap of a boss battle here. But I think we got him on the ropes, and once we do this, we'll move right on along into the final stage of the game. I do wish they would bring Jaleel White back as Sonic's voice. Say what you will about Jaleel White, he was a talented dude. And a good-looking dude. Like, he was a handsome man, and they made him dress up as Urkel when he was 15. Can you imagine being, like, a handsome, charming, like, outgoing guy at, like, 14, 15 years old and being, like, the only thing that you're famous for at that time is being the biggest dork in the world? Now, see, this is good final level music. And of course, I fall for the first trap. And the second trap. At least that time I tried to jump. See if we can get down here. Pray, pray, pray. There we go. There we go. Don't know why I had to prove to them that I knew how to do this 3 times. Seems like they could have just put 1. Like, once you have the Once you see it and you know what you're doing, not that hard. Ah, shoot. I'm dead. Scrap Brain Zone, Stage 1. Cannot believe that I just fell in that pit again. What is wrong with me today? Oh my god. Oh, Lord have mercy. Let's go the other way this time. Oh, this trap again. Cool. Those drums are really cool. Yeah, the marketing of Sega stuff. I kind of got distracted while I was fighting Dr. Robotnik there, but there it is. Okay. Yeah, Sega had this like really cool like I don't know, you know, the slogan that they used, welcome to the next level, and the way that it would be like printed weird and honestly, the Saturn was a poorly designed console, right? It was a good had some great games on it. But let's just give this a second. But not a great console. You know, it was difficult to design for. Oh, come on. It was difficult to design for. It couldn't do 3D effects very well. You know, all that kind of stuff. But one thing that I think people miss out on is how unbelievably cool the marketing for the Saturn was. I didn't have a Saturn as a kid. I think it was the only major console in my lifetime that I didn't own, now that I think about it, because... Let's see. I was born in '88, and in that time, the NES had already come out. In that time, the TurboGrafx came out. Did not have that one. Did not have a TurboGrafx. If you consider that to even be a major console, it really wasn't in America. Honestly, I think in Japan, and the only reason it was so popular was because it was where you played vertical shooters. Heaven help me. This is, I mean, obviously, this is the level that I've played the least. I think I just need to be more careful. Not that the solution is that easy. Of course. I am way too incompetent and impatient to play the game carefully. So it's not going to happen, but I do think that if I were to play the game carefully, it would probably help me quite a bit. The Genesis specifically always brings me back. I've been thinking lately about the fact that I don't remember, like when I think about my time at home, like in my parents' house, I'm dead. Oh, okay. Well, all right. Never mind. Oh, okay. There we go. When I think about my time in my parents' house, I do, obviously specifically remember playing games at different times. But I feel like in my early childhood, I feel like I may have only had my Genesis at home. So I definitely more strongly associate that era with the Genesis, but I also feel like I remember watching TV more than I played games, and that's not true of anywhere else that I went. Almost made it. Anyway, this is not therapy. I don't need to talk about my memories of my childhood. But we may play some more Sonic games. I don't know. I've been thinking about Sonic lately. Have always wanted to play Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. I've never finished that game. I've started it a couple times, but never actually finished it. And I think my friend Pete, that is his favorite game of all time. I think that Pete would probably enjoy watching me play Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. So we'll see. That may be something we have coming up here. I don't know if I'm going to play through all the 2D games, although I have had something of a hankering to play Sonic 2 lately, because it's the one that I played the least. I know it's the one that people think is the best in the series for some reason, but I don't think it's as good as either 1 or 3. But I didn't own 2 growing up. I only owned 1 and 3, so... actually, I owned 1 in Knuckles. Sonic and Knuckles. I did not own 3. No! No! It's the fire every single time. I keep getting hit by the exact same trap. Let's speed this up a little bit. There we go. Okay. Come on. Oh my god. There we go. Boom. Now we're talking. No! Messed up that jump timing. Damn and blast. Hey, what do you think Robotnik built this place for? Like, what purpose do these blocks serve? Are these some kind of, like, turbine or pistons? I know that there's, like, descriptions for all these things in, like, I don't know, some kind of Japanese ancillary material. Ancillary material, excuse me. A copy of Sweet Jump 2 magazine from 1994. That seems to be every lore fact about every video game is like... in a copy of Sega V-Jump 64 from 1992... Naoto Oshima says this is how it happens. Infuriating. Infuriating. We're going to be careful this time because now I realize that I'm in the place that I need to be careful. Okay. Get through here, do this stupid thing that I hate more than anything. Wasn't there a... I don't know, nothing over there. I was thinking there was a shield for some reason. Okay, that's the ideal outcome for me. I did not want to go through all those platforms again. Whoa, that was a close one. What do you think Robotnik needs these robot pigs for? very little about this game makes sense if you really look at it. The animation in the background is cool, though, with like the smokestacks going off. Sonic the Hedgehog has passed. Amazing that that wasn't just a pit down there that I jumped into. That's kind of what I was expecting. Apparently people really hate those wheels. Never gotten that. I've never found them to be that difficult to deal with. Well, that didn't go well. At least we made it out. Cool. What a cool conveyor belt physics design. Even ducking, I can't make it past that thing. Sonic don't give a damn about those rings. This has got to be painful to watch for people who are, like, Sonic fans. This is, I'm, like, terrible at it, and this is a game that, like, even casual players have memorized backwards and forward. I've had friends that can beat this game, that can speedrun this game, that can beat the whole game in like 30 minutes or something. Not like, you know, world record level, but they can beat it super fast. And needless to say, without being hit. I feel like that exact warp effect, that like pink effect next to Sonic's head there, has been used in something else, and I can't place exactly what it is. It looks kind of similar to the warp pads from Link to the Past, except pink instead of blue. So maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I don't know. I promise you guys, I am actually good at some video games. Obviously, I'm better at them when I'm not playing them on a recording and trying to talk about it, but It's just like how Sonic looks when he just like looks up at something. Oh boy, another one of these levels. I forgot about that. It's just their way of being like, haha, hey, F you. You thought that this was the worst world that you'd played through? We're gonna send you right back there. We're gonna have a redo of one of the levels. I think maybe we should make it one of the worst levels in the game. One of the ones that players really hate the most. Sega. Cool fact about Sega that I found a lot of people don't seem to know. Not what I was trying to do here. Let's try that again. Yeah, cool fact that a lot of people don't know. Sega, obviously most famous as a Japanese company. Oh, I know what I did. Okay, whoops. Sega actually not a Japanese name. It was actually founded by an American in Hawaii, I think, technically. And was specifically designed to sell arcade game, well, not arcade games, but pinball machines and jukeboxes and stuff like that to Japanese, the Japanese market. And Sega is actually an American portmanteau for service games. think the original founder, I think maybe was named David Rosen. I know his last name is Rosen, but I think his last name is, I think his first name was David. And he founded it, I think, in the early 50s. So Sega's been around for a while. They're one of the oldest video game companies in existence. Short of companies like, Nintendo, who have been around for hundreds of years. Come on! Are you serious? What was the deal with that? Where was the bubble? Oh my god. Let's see what happens if we go this other way. I'm sure that's just like a roundabout and it just adds extra level that we have to go through, but... Yep. Well, maybe not. This may be something different. Yeah, this is a different area. Alright, cool. Good drums. Good drums all throughout this game. And the console, the Sega Genesis, had some really good, oh my god, drum effects. Well, at least I hit that. Whew. Hot damn, that was a close one. Don't know what it is with these things. They take forever to spit out these bubbles now. Oh, this level has got to be over soon. I really don't like... I don't like underwater levels in general because I'm so impatient that I can't handle it. But I especially dislike Sonic water levels. They're so hard, and you have to... See, the physics of the game makes it to where you can't move. Like, it's just not possible to get enough momentum while you're going up to also move left. That makes stuff like that impossible unless you're planning ahead. And, of course, I've talked about on a couple of things here when we were playing Donkey Kong, specifically. It's something that... really all game designers use. I feel like British game designers are more likely, or did it more commonly than anybody else. But that idea of, I don't think that it's fair to have something that you can't predict and survive. Like, doesn't mean that it shouldn't be difficult, but you should always be able to tell something is going to happen beforehand and react to it. Even if it's a very short window that you can react to. Stuff like that falls outside of that, because unless you are specifically planning to go on that platform, once it starts going up, there's nothing else you can do. You're just done. You're dead. You can't turn fast enough. You can't get enough momentum going in either direction. You're just dead. Okay. Combining impatience with stuff like this does not go well. Oh, hit the spear again. Come on. Okay. I was about to say I'm dead. Sonic should really just roll up into a ball by himself. I shouldn't have to. If I fall, I can't spin. Like, I don't know. That's aggravating to me. Every time, baby! Cannot seem to get around that spear with my rings intact. The Sonic Ring... Come on! Blah, blah. Sega. Do that again. The Sonic Ring sound. Are you serious? Where did that even come from? Ugh. Now this is starting to devolve into actual anger. Like I'm actually mad at Sonic this Hedgehog. Alright, we made it past the spears at least, for God's sake. Yeah, so the Sonic Ring sound, as you hear there, one of the most famous sound effects in the history of video games. And one of the most recognizable. Most famous, well, not most famous, but famously appears in certain gas stations when you make a purchase. And the only person I've ever seen talk about that is the YouTuber Nexpo, Nightmare Expo. Okay, thank God. And he delved into it a little bit, but I don't think went further than asking the people at the local gas station. So I think the conclusion that he came to was that it was just a sound-alike sound. But the thing about it is that the software that plays the Sonic Ring sound at gas stations when you use it also has other video game sounds in it, which I've never heard anybody talk about. If something goes wrong, it plays the uh-oh sound from Worms, of the guy going, uh-oh. And it will do it over and over again. So whoever designed the Gilbarco Passport is the name of the system that they use. And whoever designed it very deliberately put video game sounds in it, almost certainly with no credit, because Gilbarco does not seem to want to talk about it or acknowledge that those are sounds from video games. All right, let's give this bubble fountain here about 20 minutes to spit out a bubble. There we go. Okay, make it around there. Go over here. I gotta get out of here. Hurry up. There we go. Okay. Oh, thank God. Above water again. That guy. Move up here. Very slowly making our way through this water. Give me a bubble. There we go. Okay. This level is going to make me an insane person. Not that I have far to go. Oh, thank God. I remember how this works. Okay, this is not a super hard boss. The last one wasn't a super hard boss either, but I was bad at it, so... Ah, damn. Yes, I do have the fast forward button set to a toggle. Yes, that is how impatient I am. See, this is how you compose a final boss theme. Robotnik isn't even that threatening of a boss, but man, this makes it seem like a friggin' epic battle. It's really hard for me to not swear. Really bad at it, but I want these to be at least PG-13. Ran out of steam there and had to just walk the last couple of steps. Whoa! Whoa. People talk about what a huge deal it was in 1991 that if you left Sonic sitting still for too long, he would start tapping his foot. Like, dude, what the hell are you doing? Let's get moving. For some reason, that was just huge at the time. I think it really mostly had... Ah! Damn. That was stupid. I got greedy. Alright. There we go. Don't even remember what I was saying before that. I don't know, this is a really, really cool boss theme to me. Like, it really makes it seem like you're fighting something terrible. And kind of makes you want to win. I think the best example of that, at least that I can think of, is Captain America and the Avengers. The arcade game. It's like a beat-em-up. It's one that I played all the time. One of my favorite cabinet designs of all time. Always really makes me happy to see it. Okay. Making no progress so far. It has this music, like it has... It's fairly standard boss music. It's good. It's not incredible. But what makes it really cool is that once you beat the boss enough, once you do enough damage to the boss, and suddenly you have more health than the boss does, it changes the theme from the villains, like the boss theme, to the main superhero theme from the title screen. And it makes you feel, like, awesome. It really does an incredible job at, like, rallying you to win this dumb, like, superhero fight. We'll almost certainly play that game on stream at some point. It is one of my all-time go-to games, so... I don't think a full year has passed of my life without me playing it at least once. Since I got into emulation when I was like 9. And even before that, it was a really popular game and you saw it all over the place, so I played it all the time in the arcades. Yay! We did it. I also feel like it hurts the whole Sonic is the fastest thing on two legs bit for Robotnik to be equally fast. Like, on foot. Like this perfectly round man, old man at that, can run as fast as Sonic the Hedgehog, who can break the sound barrier. Sonic the Hedgehog. I've always wanted Tyler, the Creator, to release an album that has his name on it, on the cover, so that I can edit it to say Sonic, the Hedgehog. Still hasn't happened as of 2026. Yuji Naka in prison, I think, I remember correctly, for the game Balan Wonderworld, which was so bad they put him in jail. That's not actually true. It was some kind of insider trading, something or other. I don't think it was video game related at all, but I do like to picture it being the government punishing him for Balan Wonderland, whatever, being an awful game. Masato Nakamura, the best. I think Sonic 2 has the better soundtrack. It seems like they really knew where they were going. There are some great songs in this game, but really none of them are quite as good as Green Hill Zone, whereas in the second game, almost all of them are that good. It gets a lot more creative, and it's clear that he was focusing more on, like, oh, this can also be for, this is not just like an extra job that I'm getting paid for. This can actually be a part of the whole Dreams Come True mythos. So, we defeated Dr. Robotnik. He does have the Chaos Emeralds, so he is virtually undefeatable, based on my knowledge of what happens when you get the Chaos Emeralds. He will destroy the world and eradicate Sonic's island there. Turn everything into robots. But yeah, that is Sonic the Hedgehog, 1991's Sonic the Hedgehog. Talked a lot about the, history and culture surrounding Sonic. Hopefully not in a way that made anyone feel looked down upon or anything. As I said, I am an ally to the furries. Yeah. Thursday, I'm not sure what we're going to really do. We may start Sonic Adventure 2. Part of me feels like we need to play Sonic Adventure first, but I did actually beat Sonic Adventure on stream once. But at the same time, I beat it on stream while I was surprisingly drunk. So, maybe it warrants another playthrough. In any case, we will be back later this week, Thursday, and after that, we've got some cool new ideas coming down the pipeline now. We were looking at. I think we're going to try a new type of video, maybe some like rankings or lists. Try to make them more than just like a listicle, but embarrassing though it is to admit, I do have to admit that I do enjoy the occasional listicle or something like that. There's just something that appeals to me about the structure of that type of article or video or whatever, what have you. And sometimes it's the only way to pull out, like, sometimes it's hard in a video essay to fit in certain pieces of trivia. So sometimes you can fit them in other places. But, yeah. So, work on that coming out, and got another play-along coming out Thursday, and, yeah. So, feel free to leave any comments that you may have, any thoughts that you have about Sonic the Hedgehog here in the comments, and have a great week.